Hello, this is DrGAKMAN here with Nintendo Agenda. As the Switch OLED arrives here pretty soon, beginning of next month, October 8th, there's some rumors flying around, and I also wanted to talk about some things before it came out, because as they dissect it and take apart it and the dock especially for it, we're gonna probably find out some things. I'm not saying that there's going to be like some amazing revelation. There certainly is not going to be next gen hardware in there. There certainly is not going to be DLSS or anything like that. But here's my train of thought with this video here. So OLED is coming soon. There's going to be teardowns of the system and the dock. The dock is more important here. The system will contain the same hardware from what we know, but may have better cooling. And why? Possibly for more overclocking. Maybe there might be more to the system. Now, in past videos, I talked about there's still more potential left in the current Switch that we have, and therefore also the Switch OLED, because it's going to be using the same chipset, the same system on a chip, hardware, memory, and all that. So is this a next-gen system? No. Is this a half step? No. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying that they may find that it may be better suited for overclocking. Now, that's just the system. I don't think anything is going to be a major revelation there. And I may be completely wrong about that. I'm completely open to that being an untrue thing. But more towards the dock, this is what I want people who are going to be dissecting this thing to take a look at first, is the cable that it comes with. So let's say that this dock is like for future systems as well, or has some kind of future feature that isn't touted right now, but as we open it up and we look inside of it, we go, oh, okay, the display port now runs faster or can do higher resolution. The Switch itself can do higher resolutions than it currently can. Now, of course, the argument comes up of, well, then it's going to be lower frames per second, it's going to be weaker, it's going to be blah, blah, blah. Shut up, okay? That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is there's the potential for the dock to have HDMI 2.0 or 2.1 output. But the quickest way to check that is if it does, and it includes a cable that takes advantage of something like that, then the cable is going to be able to, the HDMI cable is going to be a 2.0 or higher cable. That is if that is what the dock can do. Now, there was not even a rumor, it was just a 4K picture on the Animal Crossing official Twitter from the game. And you could see that it was actually 4K resolution. It was not some kind of upscaled thing, and it was from the official Nintendo Animal Crossing Twitter. Now, that's, nobody followed through on that too much, and that's not like a big deal. It could have been from development hardware. It could have been from the 4K Switch that's rumored to be coming. It could have been from the OLED. It could have been from the current Switch that's hooked up differently. We don't know. But that's just something to keep in mind. Lost my train of thought here. Somebody texted me while I'm trying to do a video. But here's another thing too. There could be extra hardware in the dock. Not just a better display port or a better HDMI port, but also there is the rumor, and not even a rumor, it's actually a patented idea that Nintendo patented a while ago, and I talked about this in previous videos, the SCD, or the Supplemental Computing Device, which, gee whiz. Stop! Oh my god. Um, wow, this just ruined that video. Okay. Anyways, so I was looking for this picture is what I was doing, and I'm currently on a newer phone, and I didn't have this old picture, but I found it, and blah, blah, blah. But I was asking some people for this picture. I think this is hilarious with the two chicks fighting, and then the guy in the background smoking crack. So, anyways, credit goes to somebody else. I mean, somebody put this on, I think, Image Flip. Anyways, I don't know who made this picture, but they're a freaking genius. So, okay, so there was the earlier patented ideas that we had seen early on in the Switch's life of the supplemental computing device, which could also be for 4K output. It is of note that the new dock will have updatable firmware. Now, there was an earlier Switch Pro rumor before the OLED was announced, before E3, and I know there was a lot of rumors going around there. I covered some, blah, blah, blah. But one rumor suggested they were going to release a new system, but that its power was going to be held back at launch, but would later be unlocked. How would they do that? Through a dock firmware update, you know? Like if the firmware, or if the dock can be updated through its firmware, then it could be like, okay, 4K off and then 4K on. Now, this was also backed up by people who do, what do you call that? Where they break down firmware updates for the Switch and for just about anything else. They take a look at the code in there, and one of the code did say something about 4K. So that's a possibility, and that was in the current Switch, and also in the rumored OLED or other revision Switches in the future. Blah, blah, blah. So that's something to think about. So would this be for clocking or dock upscaling, the firmware update? Could it be for either one of those? Possibly. And if they were doing all of this stuff and they haven't told anybody about it yet, why are they holding back? Why, well, it could be because that rumor is true, that they are deliberately holding back and that they're just waiting for a later date when more people have this particular Switch, have better internet, have better televisions, and know more about the system and go, oh, okay, this is actually a little bit more capable through either through supplemental computing device or just in the dock, or just, the dock upscales it. Now, is this going to be DLSS? No, I don't believe so. That would cost way too much, and I think this would that would have to be something on the system. It would not be something through a dock. That would make the dock like super duper expensive and blah blah blah. So that's not what I'm suggesting here. I'm just saying that there could be a little bit more to the dock than we know. So why are they holding back? It could be for a surprise. It could be one of those things where they go, oh, okay, well, this new Switch OLED that you just got, well, guess what? Now I can do 4K output. Or now I can, it has HDR, or who knows? There could be something added to the dock that, gets unlocked later on that newer games would take more advantage of. And then it also could be that they're holding back its, just a little bit of more power, so that they're, like for a strategic transition between the Switch revisions, as the older Switches are no longer being sold, no longer being made, and the OLEDs take over, that may be the time that they flip the Switch and have the firmware to be like, oh, okay. And, something to note about this too is that the the new dock will work with the old system, and the new system, the new OLED system, will work with the old dock. So I could be blowing a whole bunch of smoke for nothing, because maybe the docks are basically identical, except for it's got a LAN port and it's different orientation, or made better for cooling, for hate to go back to overclocking again, but it's a possibility. There is a newer rumor from, again, Bloomberg, where a lot of these rumors have come from, that suggests that many developers already have Switch 4K kits. Now, let's say this: you have the current Switch, or you have the Switch OLED, but you have downloadable patches that have 4K assets, and then they someday switch on the 4K output from the dock. Now, are these games suddenly going to be magically the best, like PlayStation 4 level, Pro level, PlayStation 4 Pro level, or higher? Now, I don't know. That's not what I'm suggesting. But, it could look better. And certainly with some people, I know some people have had complaints that they've hooked up their Switch to a 4K television. I personally have one. It's a Vizio. It's newer. But, even higher top tier brands, there's firmware updates for those televisions. But even then, if they're getting a source from an HDMI 1.4 cable, which is what I believe the current cable, the current output is for the current Switch dock, it doesn't upscale very well to 4K. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But this Bloomberg rumor is suggesting that a lot of developers have, some that they know about and some that they probably don't know about, have these Switch 4K kits. Now, why do they have Switch 4K kits? Is there a newer system coming? Is it possible that the OLED has a 4K Switch that hasn't been discovered yet, or hasn't been turned on yet, or we don't know about yet? We don't know. I think we're going to know a lot more when the system comes out and people break it down and tear it apart and look in there and see what kind of chips are in the dock to know if it's capable of doing more. But then Bloomberg also said that Nintendo has shelved system plans in the past and may do so with this as well. Now, they may have egg on their face because Nintendo called them out and said, hey, look, this is all not true. And they're doing that again right now. They're saying that's unfounded, But in the past, they made a Twitter, which usually Nintendo does not comment on rumors at all. They always say that at the end of these reports, oh, Nintendo was called for comment, and they don't comment on rumors. Well, this time they did, or this last time during E3, because it was kind of damaging to them. Everybody was expecting a 4K Pro, and then they announced the OLED instead, which was kind of crazy, threw a lot of people for a loop. And so why did they do that? Probably because if there was a 4K Pro ready, it still might not be ready for games and for the market as they see it, and also for parts. This may be the new takeover, the revision 3, the OLED, that takes over for the revision 2 model of the Switch. And once they've got that established, then they'll go ahead with a newer Switch that has, possibly better chipset and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe the OLED has, something secret in it. I don't know. We don't know. We will know more here in the next couple of days and weeks here. But them saying that they've shelved system plans before in the past, again, that's the egg on the face thing, because they were swearing up and down that, oh yeah, this is a new thing. And then when it didn't happen, they were like, oh, well, there was 2 systems planned. One is for this holiday and one is for next year, blah, blah, blah. Could be true. I don't know. We'll see. Here's my own personal thoughts. I still think that there could be a surprise with the Switch OLED that Nintendo has kept secret. They haven't even talked about the OLED since it was announced. Even in this last Nintendo Direct, they didn't say anything like, hey, get the OLED, or anything like that. OLED seems to be like, okay, this is a better screen. There's a couple more updated features, but it's just basically the same Switch, Well, maybe that's all it is, but maybe there's a little bit more to it, but they're not going to brag about it or talk about it because there's another Switch plan for next year or in 2 years, who knows, or because they're not ready yet, who knows. But even if the 4K output comes through the OLED, it'll be a minor upgrade, and it'll be through the dock, and it won't be like something like DLSS. It won't. That'll be, the dock would have to, if the dock is going to be used in the next Switch, and the next Switch is 4K, then yes, the dock would have to have 4K capability, which means that it would have to have HDMI 2 or HDMI 2.1 support in the port that you plug the HDMI cable into. And if the cable that it comes with is, thick enough, I should say, 2.0 or higher for 4K, then that could be an indicator that, hey, this is the replacement Switch, but it's also the replacement dock too. So there's two paths that Nintendo could be taking going forward. They could continue to milk the current Switch with light revisions, which would include possibly a minor 4K after the OLED, or next year, or in 2 years, who knows, maybe it might be a bigger jump. But I don't think that it's going to be, and I personally think that this is the path that they will go, is keep milking the Switch. I don't think that they're just going to be like, hey, we're doing really great, now here's a next generation because this one can't handle. No, they're going to support, and this is something that Samus Hunter has said too, that they're going to continue to support the current Switch as is, and that if there is a new Switch coming, that it's not going to instantly replace the current Switch. They're not going to ignore that user base, and games will still come to it. It's just that maybe they'll have 4K patches for the newer Switch, or maybe it'll be like newer games will come only to the 4K Switch for after a little bit of time, which could be the reason why, they're holding back now, but then they open it up later on, so that the transition is smoother, and that it wouldn't really even be a transition from one generation to the next. It'd be more like, DS to DSi, or Game Boy Color, or Game Boy to Game Boy Color, or 3DS to new 3DS. Could be something like that. And I mean, that's certainly possible in the world of portables, and certainly possible in the world of Nintendo, and certainly possible with them riding so high, and with there being chip shortages, that they milk this as long as they can, and people are satisfied with it still. They're not competing directly with Sony and Xbox, so maybe this is the path that they take. But a lot of other people are holding out hopes for a next gen Switch, that this OLED is just the stopgap, and that next year, or in 2 years, or in 3 years, we're going to have a next gen Switch, and it's going to be a true upgrade, and it's going to, none of its games will be able to be played on the old Switch. Even if that were true, I don't think that, even if it were true that there's going to be a next gen Switch, as they think, as the naysayers of the, little revisions coming year after year, as opposed to, hey, let's do this and then cut this off and then start a new generation. Yeah, I don't believe in that. But even if that were true, there's still the possibility through the cloud, and especially if it is a nice LAN port on this new dock, to handle newer games that can't be played natively on the old Switch, but they could still be played through the cloud. And I think that this might also play into their whole, okay, we're going to upgrade our online, and there's going to be 2 tiers of the online. You're going to get more games with this, and maybe even possibly, I'm going to talk about this more on my blog, maybe there is the possibility of a higher tier that includes cloud games, which would be great for older Switches, who can't play these games natively, but through, you know, the cloud could play them. Blah, blah, blah. Then that brings up the argument of people don't like the cloud and internet's not ready, and then you lose portability and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. That's just one of those options, possibilities that's out there. And why not the Switch 4K now? A big question in my thoughts, instead of the OLED. Well, I think it's because of worldwide part shortage, of course. That would be the top, or the number one reason, the obvious reason. And so they're just doing OLED now, and then maybe they'll do 4K later, or maybe it'll be a switch that they flip and OLED can do 4K through its dock. Who knows? We don't know. And again, I think we'll know more as they tear the system down. I just wanted to get this video out there so that people might be thinking, oh, you know, this is not me rumor mongering, and I'm not saying, oh, it's a, you know, secret plan all along, or, oh, it's, you know, they lied to us about how. No, it is as powerful as they said, which is basically as powerful as the current Switch, which means, you know, not an upgrade. But again, through supplemental computing device, through a better dock, through a better port, through, you know, better cable, we could have, especially through cloud gaming, we could have 4K on Switch after all, through the OLED. But we'll see. And again, I said that there will be more on my blogger because I'm going to go over Nintendo's last Nintendo Direct. That's late coming, and I'm sorry about that. But again, I'm going to put some of these thoughts into that. And you know, I think the last Direct was pretty cool. And again, they did not talk about the OLED, and the OLED's coming like in a little bit over a week. So, you know, a lot of what I'm saying in this video may be worthless. Once they crack it open, they say, oh, it's just the exact same dock, or it's the exact same ports, or it's the exact same system, you know, which it very may well could be. So, but I think that there'll be something to the dock, because, you know, if this dock, I don't want to say future-proof, but if there's another system that's coming in the next year or two that is 4K capable, then the dock has to be able to handle that. And I think it'd be a little bit redundant to have two docks in a row that can't do it, and then have a third dock with the next revision of the system that can, making the prior two docks completely useless. You know, if you're trying to hook it up to a 4K television to get 4K output, that is. But that's just me. So we'll come back to this rumor of the 4K Switch Pro U, Super Switch Pro U. Look at this guy. He's having the time of his life. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. And again, take a look at my blogger once I update it with more stuff, probably at the beginning of next month, and with a review of the Nintendo Direct that we had recently. Thanks for watching.